transforming lives. Your transformation starts here.
All right, guys, welcome to Transforming Lives Podcast. I am your host, Tony Kimball. Hey, I'm excited that you are taking out your time on Saturday. Yep, Saturday to stop and visit in with us, guys. Well, Transforming Lives is a podcast that was started on this whole idea of transformation and not conforming to the normal. It was looking out on the outside of education and saying that how can I connect with individuals that will share their story and that will encourage others to live a transformed life and build a transformed school. Well, guys, there's no difference on today. We're moving into year 4, almost into year 5. When you talk about transformation, it's about having a candid conversation with individuals that are making it happen. You know, this particular series that I'm starting out with is called 50 Educators from 50 States. Guys, I had no idea that how impactful this initiative would be. I thought, well, maybe I'll just bring on individuals and that will just be it. But it is so much bigger than what I envisioned. So one thing I want to tell you before this show gets going is think big, right? Many times we think big when it comes to our children and our school district, but there are other initiatives that you need to think big, right? Think big, whether that's reaching out to someone or thinking about how am I going to get in contact with somebody that's in Alaska. That's on my bucket list right now. So if you're listening to this, if you know someone in Alaska, yeah, DM me. Let's talk. I need to get with someone in Alaska. I'm working on all these different states. Well, I've had 3 people on so far, 3 incredible guests, and they have spreaded a wealth of knowledge. And today is my 4th guest in this particular series, guys. So what you want to do right now, pause, hit the subscribe button, go to YouTube, hit the subscribe button, subscribe to this particular channel. Also share this so another educational buddy can hear it, okay? Do that for me. I appreciate it. It's free. I appreciate you doing that. Go ahead and do that. So I want to bring on my next guest. When we talk about transformation, and the unique thing about this is I'm finding out as you connect with other individuals, you begin to network with individuals, what begins to happen is connections just happen out of the norm. And for me, I was doing a podcast on marriage, right? And the individual said, hey, you know, I have this gentleman that you need to connect with. You need to connect with him. And I'm like, okay, gotcha. I'll connect with him. And I said, all right, let's go. Let's try this out. New Jersey on the map. But what I did not know was how impactful my next guest is. My next guest hails from New Jersey, right? I've been there a couple of times. So I've been to Jersey, right? You in New Jersey, actually. My next guest is Dr. Donovan Smalls. He is an educator, a consultant, a author, and I'm looking forward to hearing about his book. He's a husband, a father, and just right down an educator. He owns his own company, and we're going to hear more about that in just a moment. I'm giving you the top end of it. We're going to dive more into it so we can fill in those lines to find out more about Dr. Donovan Smalls II. My next guest, I want to welcome on Dr. Smalls. How are you doing?
I'm great, Coach Tony. I appreciate you for having me on. That was an amazing intro. It's got me fired up.
I just got this football feeling on this morning. That's what it is. Yeah.
Yep, I hear you. Saturday, college football.
Right. I think it's the annual Army Navy game. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yep.
So cool. No, again, thank you for just taking your Saturday out to come on this show and just share your message with everyone, and how I'm looking forward to how that's going to impact others. So I want to go ahead and jump right into it. Uh, my question is, why did you get into education? What inspired you to get into education?
So the interesting thing, Coach, I think, I don't have that story or that motivation of a lot of other people and wanting to be a lifelong educator, right? That wasn't me.
Yeah.
For me, I never saw myself as an educator. I loved sports
Oh,
growing up. And so growing up, I played basketball, I played baseball, I played soccer, but I took a liking to basketball.
okay.
And so for me, that was my world. That's where I really found my identity, was in basketball. Played college basketball. When I was in high school, I actually got invited to the junior Nike camp in St. Louis, Missouri. So I'm playing with guys like Steph Curry, Derrick Rose, Greg Monroe, some other individuals
Wow.
um, who made it to the NBA. And that's not to say that I was on their same level. I will not say that, but I will say that we were at the same invitational camp. And so I majored in sport management going into college. And when I wanted to transfer to come back home to New Jersey, my mom recommended, okay, this college, a lot of these colleges don't have sport management. Why don't you try health and physical education, because you love sports?
Okay.
And that's what I did. And so I majored in health and phys ed. That's kind of how I got into education. But again, that was never my dream. It was never my story growing up. I kind of feel like I've been called to do this work, and
Yeah.
I just picked up the phone.
Oh, wow. So, yeah, that is different, right? Many times, you kind of feel that, like that beam of light hits you, and you're like, "This is my calling." Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's good to hear. So you're a baller, okay? That's where it is. All right, you're a baller. In fact, the unique thing about this, I played college football. The
Okay.
unique thing about that is today, my youngest son has a basketball game today, and I'm the head coach. So this is
Uh,
this is gonna be
you got a busy day.
this is gonna be fun.
Yeah.
So hearing you go into education with
Mhm.
that pathway, I'm sure you've had many experiences with children in your classroom, in your
Mhm.
schools. So the next question is, what motivated you to step into the leadership role? Like, that's different. You're saying that, that wasn't necessarily the direction, but this is another conversation to step into leadership, because leadership is not for the faint of heart.
Oh no, definitely not. So man, I think that honestly, if I could sum up how my career has been going, how my life has kind of been going, I think it's just a series of saying yes to God.
Mm.
For me, again, I never wanted to be a school leader either. I never saw myself
Oh, wow.
doing
Okay.
what I'm doing, right? And for me, what happened was I was teaching health and physical education. I felt like I wanted something a little bit more. As I mentioned earlier, sport management was my initial major. I ended up getting a master's degree in sport management at Virginia State University. And so I'm like, okay, let me go on and get my doctorate so that I can also be a professor of sport management. So
Oh,
a week after defending my dissertation, I get a call from Virginia State University saying, "Hey, we have a position that's open. We would like for you to come back and be, full time and teach in our sport management department." So this was, I think it was around 2019. I'm in Virginia, thriving in my role, but now the pandemic hits.
mm,
So when the pandemic hits, a
yeah.
lot of these universities are losing money. They had to make some shifts in personnel. So, first one hired, first one fired, right? So at that point, I'm like, okay, what am I going to do what am I going to do now? My wife is doing a year of fellowship. She's in the medical field in Cincinnati, Ohio. We moved to Cincinnati. And so at that point, I'm going back into the classroom as a health and physical education teacher, but I'm noticing that a lot of the leadership and mentorship from my previous school just was missing, right?
Mm,
I didn't see the same level of leadership excellence. And so
gotcha.
instead of complaining about the problem, I decided that I wanted to try to be a solution. And so I went back to school, started working on my education administration certification. And then that kind of led me into school leadership. So really it was about seeing a gap or seeing, where students were falling short, but not because of them, but because of, in my opinion, leadership. And so I wanted to try my best to try to fill that gap.
Oh, wow. Okay, we're gonna start out like this. Okay, okay. There's a lot. There's a lot to unpack right in that conversation because we start out with our plans in mind,
Mhm.
and we are pursuing those things on our own rights, and we think that is the way.
Right.
But then God steps in, right?
Mhm.
And he's like, "Well, did you read the manual?" Uh,
Right.
so going from and the pandemic is a whole conversation because the pandemic,
Mhm.
of course, changed everyone's life.
Yeah.
To move to Cincinnati, right? I didn't know that.
Mhm.
Cincinnati, and then you are now faced with I'm uncomfortable. I'm somewhat comfortable, but I'm uncomfortable, which leads you into the role that you're going in now.
Right.
Is man, that's storybook because you're like, all right,
Yeah.
I'm feel like I'm doing what's right, but
Mhm.
now I'm here and I'm looking around, and this is not really the problem. The kids are not the problem, but this is the problem. So
Mhm.
that kind of leads me into our next question. I want to dive into your book, um, and you talk about this whole idea of beyond the classroom.
Mhm.
Let's kind of open up about when we're looking at this whole idea of beyond the classroom. I can't wait till it comes out, and I'm gonna actually do my pre-order as well, and I'm gonna encourage everybody else to make sure they do that as well. I'll put that information up towards the end of the show, but kind of open us up. It's
Mhm.
helping inspiring school leaders navigate the interpersonal organizational dynamics, and what gap in leadership development promoted prompt this book?
Yeah, and I appreciate the question. For me, when I think about even the title, right, Beyond the Classroom, for me, I'm looking at leadership and I'm learning that, and what I've learned is that we always talk about instructional leadership and that the greatest way to impact student achievement is for school leaders to constantly be in classrooms. And I agree with that. But I also have noticed that there are some aspects of leadership that happen outside of the classroom that significantly impact what happens inside the classroom. And
Okay.
so we don't always train or kind of develop our aspiring school leaders as it relates to their interpersonal skills and their
Right.
organizational leadership, right? Because I have this saying that you can't get instructional leadership right if you don't lead people in the organization well.
Mm,
So what undergirds being an effective instructional leader is your ability to communicate with people and to lead
right.
people and to also lead the organization. So when we talk about the gap that my book fills and also the work that I continue to do, it's teaching people that instructional leadership is more nuanced than we make it out to be. We have to be able to lead people and we have to be able to lead the organization. If not, student achievement will continue to not be where it should be.
Oh, sir, look here. Look. Um, Last week I had a principal on, Thomas Adams Jr., and he, the school district that he's in, their principals, it's almost like I can tell the top is very strong. because I have a son that's in the elementary school and I have a son that's in middle school, and they address topics, things in their school in such a phenomenal way. So, and one of the things that came to mind with interviewing him was this, is that culture eats structure for lunch. And to hear, I want to dive, and I know we got some other questions, but I want you to dive more into that about this whole interpersonal and organizational, because if you can't get the organization right, the structure of the organization, I think you can kind of forget about just this instruction, because if it's not systems put in place, it's going to be really tough. You can have really great kids, but if there are no systems, we're going to have a problem. Houston, we have a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, right, like you said it perfectly in terms of systems, because I think one of the biggest transitions from being a classroom teacher to a school leader is the fact that you have your own schedule that you have to develop as a school leader, right? So like as a teacher, you have a set schedule, whatever, however many class periods you're going to teach per day. You know what time your lunch is, you know what time you can take a bathroom break. But when you become a school leader, you should be scheduling your own time. But you know that if you don't have that system in place, then what can happen is you walk into the building and you're constantly putting out fires. You walk into the building and people are constantly taking up all of your time and attention because you haven't set any sort of boundaries, right? So how can I get into the classroom if time management isn't a priority? Or how can I get into the classroom if I am not putting it on my schedule and then also allowing other people to hold me accountable, right? I think the systems aspect is extremely important. And when we talk about being instructional leaders, right, are we teaching aspiring leaders how to give feedback, or are we just teaching them about the evaluation tool and how to use it, right? Because I think, again, going back to our people skills, not everyone is going to receive information the same way. So I have to be nuanced in my approach to delivering that feedback. And those are some of the things that I teach aspiring leaders.
Oh, that's good. Because, teachers, educators get nervous when evaluations come around. And, I support teachers across my state. And I'm not in the lane of evaluating. I tell them that I'm there to support your evaluation, to make your evaluation look better. But I think many people think when you come into the classroom, it's like, what are you coming to check on right now? What you come to see what's wrong? No, wait, pause, time out, flag on the play. Listen, I'm here because I'm passionate about helping teachers. I'm not here to find something wrong. So I definitely can agree with you with this whole fact of feedback is important on every level, because students need feedback too. Because if they don't get feedback, if there's a gap in this feedback chain, you can insert the insertion becomes a major problem.
Absolutely, coach. And like you said, right, even relating it back to sports, because I used to be a college basketball coach at Virginia State University as well. And so, you know this, right? Every player on your team cannot receive feedback the same way. You can be a little hard on some people, but other people, you have to be a little bit more nuanced in your approach to delivering the feedback. The goal is for you to deliver the feedback in a way where people can receive it and actually implement it. The goal is not for us to just deliver the feedback. We need action after that. So you as a leader are responsible for delivering your feedback in a way that's palatable for the teacher.
Right. A leader that I listen to on the regular, Dr. Darius Daniels, he talks about not just having inspiration, but application, where you have to put it in such a way that that the individual can apply it. and that's the amazing thing about, you know, when you talk about sports. I remember this as a young coach. It was one of the toughest things I had to do as a young junior varsity coach. I had tryouts, and the head coach of the varsity team said, "Well, you have to do an exit interview with every person that you let go, that you didn't put on the team."
Hmm. Wow.
That listen, I'm like, this is maybe the second year out of college, maybe third year. It's
Hmm.
like, I'm like, what is this? And we didn't do this when I was playing. Like, if I didn't pick you,
No,
you were gone.
that's it.
And it was like, sit down and talk with them and tell them why I didn't have them on the team and what they can work on
Mhm.
for the next year. I'm like, who does this? But I didn't realize that that was a powerful tool in developing feedback, because that student, that player knew, okay, all right, this is what I need to work on.
Mm.
But I thought it was all about them, but it was about me too, because it put me in such an uncomfortable space
Yeah.
that I'm not used to this. I'm like, you know,
Yeah.
how to
Yeah.
get you? Was your name on the list? Your name on the list? Okay,
That's
try
it,
again.
right. Yeah, yeah. That's funny that you said that because I've never heard of that strategy either, but I can see how beneficial it right. If the goal is to develop people, then I can see how the commitment doesn't just end if somebody is not on your team, right? Like your commitment is to actually developing people. Yeah. And one other thing you said, Pastor Daniels is also my pastor. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Okay, all right, yes, sir, indeed, yeah.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, you know, as you share, you know, about change,
Mhm.
you've led in education. What are some of those key principles? You know, one of the things that of doing this 50 educators from 50 states, it's sharing the principles, sharing the strategies that have directed change in your environment. Could you share some of those with us?
So I think in terms of change or in terms of principles, I think number one, you have to be humble, right?
Mm,
And I think
yeah.
that a sign of humility is in our ability to ask questions. So if you are asking questions of people, of leaders who are more experienced than you, and I want to use that word experience in a more nuanced way, right? Because I don't necessarily believe that years of experience equates to results. I think
Ooh.
that I think we have to actually like do a deep dive into the data to see what the results look like, as opposed to just assuming that because somebody has 20, 30 years of experience in a thing makes them effective at what they do. So I think that when it comes to being humble, we are constantly asking questions. We're constantly doing some sort of self-reflection to figure out who we are as people, because that's going to drive who we are as leaders, right? We can't separate
Mm,
who we are as people and our
right.
leadership ability. And I think both of those go hand in hand because there can be a tendency to step into a leadership role just to tell people what to do or just to get caught up in authority and in power. And you can
Ooh.
easily use that to influence people in negative ways. You can instantly become somebody who uses, let's say, the code of conduct to weaponize people if you aren't humble and if you aren't listening to other people who have results in areas where you don't. So I think it's about humility. I think it's about asking questions and then just constantly doing the self reflective work to figure out who you are and allow that to drive who you are as a leader as well.
Oh my goodness. Okay, right. So you just made a whole bunch of leaders mad across the state, across the nation. Which-
So here's the thing, but so okay, let me clean this up a little bit, right?
No, no, it's good. Go ahead. You good.
But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
but I think when I talk about years of experience in leadership and mentorship, right? I like to talk about mentorship as a skill as opposed to a default to how many people or how many years of experience somebody has. Somebody can be an excellent mentor, but they might have 5 years of experience because they are committed to your personal and professional development, and they have a proactive approach to your personal and professional development. They're not just sitting back saying to you, okay, call me if you need me, text me if you need me. They're actually being proactive and pulling you into experiences so that you can become better, right?
Oh,
If I'm somebody who is not proactive in my mentorship, I'm assuming that the other person knows what it is that they need so that when they come to me, I can deliver the message. But you don't know what you don't know. So if I don't know what I don't know, I need somebody who's going to be proactive to take me under their wing, pull me into experiences so I can get the experiences that I need to be the leader that I'm called to be.
oh man, this is good. Because when you talk about transformation, transformation is disruptive, and disruptive is causing someone to change the direction that they're going into another direction. And I agree. Many times the years of experience is a award that's put on the shirts of many individuals, but that doesn't, like you said, it doesn't necessarily equal to effectiveness. It doesn't necessarily equal to this um, level of leadership that you need in many cases. It's just having these authentic encounters with people that reach out to them to help them to move forward. So, man, I agree with you 1,000,000%, um, that we need to have these conversations around. You've been here 20 years. That doesn't mean anything.
Mhm. And that's not to say that that person doesn't have a level of wisdom that
Right. Yeah.
we can't tap into, right? Because they do. But I think, I just think that we also need to consider what or reconsider what experience means and the results that come with it.
Oh, I agree with you. So that kind of moves into our next question. When you talk about, um, you know, how have personal challenges shaped your coaching approach? Because I kind of hear it in your conversation. So we're just going to stop right here and
Yeah.
jump into it.
I think the challenge that I experienced early on was trying to figure out my career path, trying to figure out the level of impact that I was going to make because I've been in different places, right? I've been at a few different schools, a few different states, coached college basketball, just trying to figure it out, right? And so what I've learned though is, and going back to experience, I think there are people who have 20 to 30 years of experience at one thing and they're excellent at it. But for me, I feel like I have a range of experiences and challenges that allow me to relate to people in ways that other people might not be able to relate to them. And
Mm,
so for me, it's about embracing challenges that I've experienced and actually see that those challenges were necessary for me to be the leader that I am today, to have right the ability to coach people. It's the same thing that I was doing as a college basketball coach. And now I'm reflecting on the fact that that was a valuable experience. And
yeah.
so sometimes the challenge can be understanding or trying to make sense of the past. But I think, and I heard this quote, it's like life is lived forward, but we understand it backwards. And so I'm
Yeah.
starting to understand my life now when I look back and reflect that all those experiences actually helped me and all those challenges actually helped me to be the leader that I am today to make the impact for future generations.
Right. So the thought came to me, it worked out for your good, right? It's
Yeah,
working
yeah,
out.
yeah,
It doesn't make sense, but when you
mm,
reflect on it, it's working out for your good.
yeah,
Um, so we've kind of talked about kind of challenges. You're saying that it helped you to prepare you forward. What obstacles have you encountered in assisting educational leaders?
mhm,
Because it's one thing to say, well, you can put the title of being a consultant
mhm,
and being a school leader. That's one thing.
mhm,
But if you're going into a school to help bring about change, there are challenges, there's obstacles.
mhm.
How, what did you encounter and how did you overcome them?
So I think the disconnect between, and you kind of talked about this earlier, the disconnect sometimes between theory and practice, uh,
Mm,
the disconnect between teacher education programs and education administration programs, right? So it's like, as a teacher, you you are teaching your class, but as a school leader, we're being taught that we need to be in classrooms constantly, right? And so
right.
there can be a
Yeah.
disconnect between teachers wanting you in their classrooms and feeling uncomfortable that you're there. But in education administration programs, they're constantly teaching us we need to be in classrooms. And so I think taking a nuanced approach to how we get into classrooms and building those relationships has been one of the challenges that I've seen. Right, it's the
Hmm.
relationship building. It's taking on this persona of being a school leader without humanizing the leadership, right? So we can have a conversation, and it doesn't have to be based on hierarchy, right? We
Mm.
can have a conversation about instruction. I can be giving you feedback in a way that you can receive it and still maintain the level of respect and professional relationship. So I think one of the challenges, again, is just that interpersonal aspect that we don't often teach people. We don't often teach about the soft skills, which make a huge impact when I'm delivering my feedback in how schools are actually run. So that's what I try to help aspiring leaders with. It's that part, it's the organization part, and I've seen significant changes when people just know how to talk to other people. Like that's key, right? Like having
Ooh.
critical conversations, making our instructional conversations more conversational as opposed to I went into your classroom and I saw all of these negative things, right? Like
Mhm.
even couching our areas for growth under something positive allows people to receive it and then say, okay, I'm ready to take action.
Oh, that is a conversation piece right there because I always remember this quote, or I don't even know if it's a quote. I remember someone saying this about students, and I think it applies to adults too, where
Mhm.
students don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah.
Um, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you go in and you're just all nice. Sometimes you have to just tell the truth sometimes. But again, goes back to what we talked about earlier of being able to understand the recipient because sometimes they can't receive it because they have life. They have a whole family at home. They
Mhm.
got a whole family at home,
Right.
and it's navigating those waters to be able to lead someone forward, to have influence over them, and to
Mhm.
help them to go forward, and you not lose your mind in the process of it.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. You said, they have a whole family, right? Like teaching is somebody's livelihood, right? Being an
right.
educator, yes, it's somebody's livelihood. And so automatically when you go in to do an evaluation, there's there's a level of vulnerability that happens
Yep.
um, when you are delivering the feedback. Yes, you should be honest. I'm not, discounting that. I think we should be honest. I think we should be direct, sure. But I think we still need to be able to say things in a way where people can receive it.
Oh, 100% agree with what you're saying because, um, you have some teachers that are just driven and some that need that support
Mhm.
that, uh, they may be an excellent teacher, but life is just life is lifing.
Right.
So you got to find that balance between, as you're talking about, and seems as though your book is addressing that you just can't go in and just go on theory. Well, all right, in theory this works, but
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So it's important that we know our people. Once you know your
Mhm.
people, you know how you can distribute information.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what transformative change do you envision for educational leadership, and how would you, what are those guiding principles for you moving forward?
Yeah, I think in terms of transformational change, it's about leaving a legacy and sustaining a level of excellence, right? Because
Mm,
at some point, the veteran leaders are going to retire or move on to the next thing. So, my question is, are you training and developing other people to lead and continue on with your legacy once you move on to the next thing? Right. So if we want schools to succeed for our children, then we need to be able to train the next generation of leaders to then carry on carry on our legacy, right? And
yeah.
if we're not doing that, then and if we're only focused on our ability to lead schools without helping other people, I think that's when the mantle gets dropped, because legacy is about training others. It's about you moving on to the next thing, but the system continues and the legacy lives on. And so, as my current principal, she is leaving a legacy because, again, like she is training a tree of individuals so that whenever it is her time to move on to the next thing, the school continues to move in her legacy. So I'm a firm believer in mentoring somebody and also being mentored by somebody. So that is my challenge for everybody who's watching. It's yes, I believe in seeking out mentors, but are you also grabbing somebody else and bringing them along the journey with you? Because at some point you have to move on. We all have to. And so that's kind of like my lasting message as well. It's like, what are we doing to train people that are going to lead our children as we move on?
Oh, right. Okay. So we got to talk about this. All right. We're going to
Mhm.
move to the 2 minute warning, but we got to talk about this. This is
Yeah,
important because um, you have these generations that have come through that you know in Mississippi they call it PERS. It's the retirement system. They're looking to see, is it time to
mhm.
is it time to retire? The big thing is, I don't know what they call it in New Jersey, but in Mississippi, it's this 13th check that you get in December as a retiree. I don't even know how that system works out. I'm 20 years in, so yeah, it's not even on my radar. But to hear that the importance of building a legacy and hearing what you're talking about with your principal of you can't just be the spotlight. You have to build leaders underneath you so that if you happen to step away a day,
Mhm.
for lack of better words, the show keeps going on. And if they don't have the experience, it's like telling a freshman to go out and it's 4th and 1, or you're down by 1 in basketball, and have this
Mhm.
freshman that's having to take on that role and that responsibility. That is absurd. That's the only way yeah, it is. I'm just
Mhm.
gonna say it like it is. It's tough for
Yeah.
that freshman or that new person to step out there. So to hear that,
Mhm.
it's that's good to hear, right? We have to address
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, because it's like if we aren't able to step away for a day, like you mentioned, then I think we need to reevaluate our leadership, right? Because leadership is about systems. So what systems have we put in place that allow us to step away
Yep.
and stay out of the spotlight so that the next person can then come in and lead?
That's good right there. That's a whole that's almost like a whole uh conference topic right there. Who's
Mm.
next up to lead? Like that's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. That might have to be
Ooh.
my next podcast episode.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
I'm going. I'm a tad.
yeah.
That's good. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, now we're down to our 2 minute warning, and this is just, you have the stage to kind of let the listeners know, whether that's through a powerful sentence, or you have the floor. That's the only way I can put it. And then what's going to happen? I'm going to let them know about your website and your book, and we're going to close this thing out. So you have the floor.
So I think if I could leave a lasting message, it would be the power of coaching and mentorship. Right. I went to a conference recently, and one of the speakers on the panel, she was talking about how she hates hearing people say that there's no shortcut to being an effective leader. And the reason why she said that was because she said there is a shortcut. And she said the shortcut is coaching and mentorship. And so when I reflect on my life, I believe that that's true. I believe that I am where I am in terms of my career, in terms of doing what I'm doing in business, because of the people who paved the way before me, the people who took me under their wing to show me what it's actually like to be an effective leader. And if I didn't have that, I don't know where I would be. And so, as an aspiring school leader, all of those individuals who are out there, I would encourage you to find some sort of coach or mentor that can help you get to where you want to be. Because we don't know what we don't know. And if that is true, which I believe that it is, you have to find somebody who's doing what it is that you want to do, also living the lifestyle that you want to live. Learn from them, glean from them, and I promise you that you will get to wherever it is that you want to be.
All right. That's powerful. Thank you so much. I'm going to drop you in the background real quick, and we're going to address a couple of things, and stay on as the show closes out. All right, guys. So Dr. Donovan Smalls II, it was a great conversation. I feel like it was some stuff left on the table that I want to have a conversation about, and we ended with this whole thing of legacy. That's a whole. So now, based on him leaving me with that, I legacy is going to be in my mind all day today now. So I don't know what direction that's going to go in, but it struck something in me about having this next man up. And we talk about a lot of that in sports. Well, guys, I have enjoyed this conversation, but I want you to be able to reach out to Dr. Smalls. So I'm going to show you some ways that you're able to reach out to him. One way is through his website right here. That's on the screen right here. Of course, you see his book is there. Beyond the Classroom. You can pre-order it right now. Just actually go to the website. You can see it there and order it. He has his website, donovansmallsII.com. And you can learn more about him. Maybe you can get him into your school, speaking opportunities, coaching store, also his podcast. All that information is there. Next, we have his YouTube channel right here, and that's going to be Donovan Smalls II is his YouTube channel. So make sure you reach out. There are excellent videos out there ready for you to consume. So make sure you do that. And I thank him again to represent the state of New Jersey. It is something that is worth having on. I'm extremely excited about it. Guys, share this with an educational buddy. Thank you so much for joining us. And you have a great and marvelous day. This ends Transforming Lives Podcast.